What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Gamecite Chronicles, the console gaming podcast where we sit down each and every week to talk about our favorite hobby, video games. I'm your host, Bonfire, and this is episode number 31. I want to thank you all for tuning in to last week's episode. Hope you guys have had a great week, played some video games. I know I've actually played quite a bit of games this week, and it was kind of just a crazy week. I mean, not only for me personally in terms of like work and stuff going on in like my personal life, but also in games. We had two back-to-back directs with Nintendo, a Nintendo Direct and a PlayStation State of Play. And then Tokyo Game Show happened this weekend, at least the weekend I'm recording. And outside of that, there was tons of news, there's lots of demos, and it's just there's so much going on. It's like, oh my gosh, like I can't even keep up. It's just absolutely bananas. So just so much going on, and I don't know, it's hard to keep up, you know? So again, hopefully you guys are doing okay. I know I'm recording on this a beautiful Sunday morning, a little bit later than I would like to, but it's a beautiful, nice, crisp, cool in the air Sunday morning. And I gotta be honest, I'm feeling a little under the weather. Like I kind of got a little bit of a kind of sore throat. So if I sound a little scratchy or off, that's probably why. So I'm trying to keep my liquids up and just get through it. I'm pretty sure my son brought home something from school, or you know, kids always getting sick and stuff, but it is what it is. No big deal. So that aside, friendly reminder and shameless plug here that I have been doing some YouTube shorts. So be sure to check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Gamecite, where you can just search it in the search bar, Gamecite, find me there. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate a subscription there. My last two podcast clips have actually done pretty well, I guess, for me, in terms of views and stuff like that. So thank you all for checking those out. And I do have an announcement to make as well. I've also got Xbox Tavern. So one of the guys, I think the main guy, his name's Jamie from Xbox Tavern, who's booked and going to come on the show in the coming weeks. Next week, I think for him is EGX, which is like the European Gaming Expo. I think that's what it is. So we couldn't do it that way, but we're going to do the week after. So I think he'll be on episode 33. So look forward to that. I'm excited to talk to him, chat with him, and talk Xbox. There's a lot going on, a lot of drama. And I don't know, it'd just be fun to, obviously they're heavily invested in the platform. I'm not against Xbox by any means, but it'd just be fun to kind of get their perspective on how things are going, what they're excited about, what they like, they dislike, and just kind of chat with someone new, get them on the show. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Hopefully you guys are too. I've also got another guy I plan to reach out to, a YouTuber who's a big PlayStation guy who, I think we followed each other for years, but never really engaged much outside of, just like the follow. So I'd love to get him on the show. I'm going to reach out to him and see if we can talk PlayStation and get his perspective on kind of what's going on the PlayStation side. So that should be fun. So look forward to that in the coming weeks and months-ish. Now, for those that are new and uninitiated, remember the best way you can support the show is to leave a rating on the podcast platform you're leaving on. Helps us get into the algorithms and allows people to find us easier. So I'd really appreciate that. Also, you can join me over on Locals. It's the Patreon-esque alternative. Not asking for any donations or anything like that, but just trying to build a community over there because it's a really cool website. So the GamesiteChronicles.locals.com is where you can go. You could also check out the podcast there if you'd like. Follow me on Twitter at Gamesite Podcast. And remember to catch new episodes of the show each and every week at Mondays, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. For this week's show, obviously I want to spend it talking about the Nintendo Direct and the PlayStation State of Play. There was a lot of announcements to go through. So I want to discuss some of my favorite games from them, some things I'm excited about, and then kind of give my overall thoughts on them for each of those showcases. So that's what we'll be focusing on and chatting about today. But there's also a ton of other news. As I mentioned, Tokyo Game showing on. There's lots of games being shown off, lots of impressions. There's PSVR 2 news. There's just so much to cover. And I figured there's a couple news items that I want to scratch on that I'll touch on very briefly before we get into the Nintendo Direct and the State of Play. So we'll kind of bullet point those out, just a couple things that I pulled out that I thought were pretty cool or exciting or interesting. But then we'll jump into the main topic of the state of play in Nintendo Direct, because that's the focal point this past week. Just absolutely crazy that like literally on the same day we got both of those. So really exciting stuff. But before we get into that, let's talk about the games that we've been playing. Remember to write in the games you've been playing. We can get that in the show. I'd love to hear from you. See what y'all are playing out there. For me, I finally finished Inscription. I've been playing that the last couple weeks on the PlayStation 5, and I finished the game in about, I think, 18 hours is what the game clock said. And this game is just awesome. I know I've gushed about this game for the last couple weeks, but it's genuinely awesome, and it's probably one of my favorite games that I've played this year. I know it's not a new game per se, because I think it originally came out on PC last year, but so it can't be like my game of the year, if you will. Though my game of the year can be whatever I want it to be. But if we're keeping in the tradition of like newly launched, never released before games in 2022, that one I wouldn't really put on my game of the year list per se. But it's definitely one of my favorite games this year, if not my favorite game that I've played this year. It just got its hooks in me, and one of the things that I think is so great about it, with it being a card game, a digital card game, is that it continuously introduces new things, whether it be mechanics or little ways to spice up the gameplay, and it just really keeps it interesting and kind of fresh with this card-based gameplay loop that, I don't know, man, I just found it so addicting. And it's also got a nice touch of horror, which you've probably seen or heard about that, but like it's a touch of horror to where it's creepy, and you kind of just get this uneasy sense while you're playing throughout this game, but it's not like jump scary. And I really appreciate that. It was kind of unsettling, uneasy, the way it makes you feel. But I cannot recommend this game enough, even just to try it. I get why some folks may not like it, because again, the gameplay loop is primarily a card game. But like I said, I don't like digital card games. It's never really been my thing. But it just sucked me in with this kind of story that's kind of threaded throughout it. And even I think the card game is actually really fun. There's a nice strategy element to it. And with these new mechanics constantly being introduced, it kind of makes you think how you play, and really kind of challenges you in that way. And it's awesome. But if you do decide to check this game out, seriously, do not look up anything on this game. Go in blind. Go in as blind as possible, because you will not. That's the best way to experience this game. Like that. That's all I can say. I will leave it at that. But Inscription is awesome, and I cannot recommend it enough. After that, I jumped into Salt and Sacrifice. I've been talking about this. This is the follow-up to Salt and Sanctuary from Ska Studios, which Salt and Sanctuary came out, I want to say, like 5 or so years ago. And it's a 2D. Salt and Sanctuary is a 2D Dark Souls game. It's got a really unique art style and is wonderful. I genuinely like that game a lot. And I had the opportunity to meet one of the devs at PAX West, I think back in 2016, I think it was, and tell them how much I love their game and all that. So great group. Loved that game. So I was very much looking forward to their sequel, Salt and Sacrifice. And so I've jumped into this. I've probably played about 10 hours or so, which is crazy. It doesn't really feel like it, but I've actually been playing this game quite a bit, when I got the free time. And this is also, 2D Dark Souls, very much in the same vein. But this one, the whole premise of this one is you're actually hunting down mages. And so you kind of have this hub world that you go to, I guess similar to like Demon Souls almost, where you've got a hub world. That's where you can upgrade your character, buy items, craft things, all that stuff. And then you use a portal to navigate to these different environments. And within these environments, you'll come across these quests to hunt down mages. And that's like the main game mechanic in this game, is where you hunt down these mages, and they've all got various different abilities. There's like an ice mage, a fire mage, electric mage, like a rock mage, so on and so forth that I've encountered this far. And once you take them down, so you kind of hunt them down and follow them, and then you get to like a boss arena, take them out, and then you get a bunch of mage parts. And so you use those mage parts to craft different items and weapons. And I think that once you get the first like main quest to take it down, you can get randomly spawned addition. The mage will kind of randomly spawn again, where you can hunt him down again to continue to get more parts. And that's kind of the main part of this loop, where you get items from these mages that you hunt down to craft new weapons, armors, and items, and etc. And so in that sense, it kind of reminded me of the Monster Hunter loop, in that you go take down this beast or a mage, get some specific items that you're looking for, craft what you need, and kind of do this loop. So it's really interesting. I'm not the biggest fan of it thus far. I mean, I like the boss battles, but it's just not like the way the game is designed is from what I remember of Salt and Sanctuary, vastly different. And I applaud them for trying something different, but it's just I liked the original formula better because it was much more Metroidvania-like in its exploration, and it's much more similar to a Dark Souls game in its kind of linearity, and it had tons of exploration and bosses, and I really liked that element. Whereas this seems to be kind of focused on that loop. There are other more traditional bosses that you encounter, and you got to take down a couple of those in each area to kind of get to the next environment that you can go to from the hub world. So it's just a very different formula from the first game, and I don't like it as much, but I do kind of want to see it through. So I do plan on kind of continuing. Again, there's been a couple of two bosses actually in particular that have induced a little bit of rage in me, kind of bringing me back to some of the rage you get in Dark Souls games. So I think the stubbornness in me, I guess is the best way to put it. It makes me want to see this game through and just play through it, because it's like, look, I've played through all the Souls games with the exception of Elden Ring through its entirety, and I know like the Dark Souls games are harder than this. So like what's going on here? Maybe I'm just getting worse at games. I don't know, but it is what it is. But I want to persevere. I want to see it through, and yeah. So Salt and Sacrifice, been playing that on the PlayStation 5. And then lastly, I did jump into Splatoon 3. I mentioned that game just came out on the Switch, and I was also looking forward to that. I've only played maybe an hour or two, mostly just did some multiplayer to level up my character, because you have to be level 4 before kind of all the shops open up, and then you can do like the Salmon Run mode. But then I also played a few of the Salmon Run mode, and God, Salmon Run is awesome. It's just so much fun. And they've introduced some new bosses, which are really cool to keep the gameplay fresh, and I love it. So I definitely want to play some more of that. And the traditional multiplayer is very much the same from what I've played. It's more Splatoon, which is not a bad thing at all if you ask me. There's something enduring and charming about Splatoon that just makes me want to play it. And I think one of the things I like about Splatoon is I'm not big on multiplayer games. At least, I've kind of grown away from them. But Splatoon's multiplayer is so like, you can take it super seriously, and there are some people that are just ridiculously good at Splatoon, but it just feels more casual, and it's nice to be able to kind of just hop in, play a multiplayer match or two, and they're very short, like 3-minute rounds, and then kind of hop out. Like I love that, and I really appreciate that. And then the addition of Salmon Run is just so much fun. So I want to continue playing it. The single player portion, I do plan to check that out to kind of see how that fares. So I'll have more to report as I dive more into the game. So with that, let's jump into a couple of these small news items that I kind of wanted to just bullet point out that I thought were pretty interesting and definitely noteworthy to bring up. So the first is, it's been reported that the PlayStation VR 2 isn't backwards compatible with PSVR 1 games. So according to Push Square, they reported that the PSVR 2 will not include backwards compatibility with PSVR titles. This was mentioned on the official PlayStation podcast, my goodness, where Senior Vice President of Platform Experience, Kidiaki Nishin, says that this is because quote, PSVR 2 is designed to deliver a truly next-generation VR experience, end quote, citing a new feature like the Sense controllers and inside-out tracking. And so this is kind of a bummer because PSVR 1 has, quite a few awesome games. I know a lot of people love that Astrobot Rescue Mission. I have it. I've still yet to try it out. It's got, Moss is supposedly really, really good. Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners is supposed to be really good. So there's quite a few PSVR 1 titles that I think people would love to try out with, the higher quality gear. So kind of a bummer to hear about that, but also kind of not surprising in a sense because the PSVR 2 is so leaps and bounds ahead. Again, like he mentions with the Sense controllers, inside-out tracking, it's just completely different beast in how it works. And so one of the things I saw that I didn't note here, I saw this yesterday, is that I think it's reporting that a lot of devs are trying to bring their games to PSVR 2, so bring their original PSVR games to PSVR 2. So maybe there will be some form of like free update, ideally, or they'll resell the game for PSVR 2 for some of these big hits on PSVR 1. So I thought that was really interesting and definitely noteworthy. I think there's also a lot of people that are getting hands-on with it that seem to be liking it. So I got to say, I'm very much looking forward to PSVR 2. I'm very curious on the price and when it'll come out, especially next year with such a jam-packed year. And, the continuing scarcity of PlayStation 5s, it'd be kind of interesting how PlayStation manages that from a marketing standpoint, but it's probably they're like, we gotta get this thing out, so I'm looking forward to it. I would say one game that I really want to see, because I'm not a PC guy, but I do love Half-Life, is I want to see Half-Life Alyx on PSVR 2. I'm really hoping Valve brings that over to PSVR 2. I wouldn't see a reason why not to. It's a very niche game, so that'd be awesome. So very much looking forward to that. Thought that was interesting. Another piece of news about Xbox is that they are getting a bunch of new games to Game Pass. Shocker, but some interesting ones here. So during Xbox's showcase at Tokyo Game Show, they confirmed a bunch of new games coming to the service. So those include Level 5's Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, which is available as of now. This was originally released on PlayStation. This was originally released on PlayStation 3 in 2013 in the US, and I think in 2011 in Japan, and then later remastered in 2019 on PlayStation 4. So, and also came to the Switch, I believe. So finally making its way to Xbox, which is really interesting. Xbox is really trying to get into that Japanese market. And, this is a game I've always wanted to play. I've heard very good things about it. And supposedly it's like one of the best JRPGs ever created. So I've just never got around to playing it. And I know before they did the remaster, I know the PS3 copy was kind of getting a little rare. So I never was able to pick it up, but I do have the remaster on PlayStation 4. So it's in the backlog, but very intriguing. It does look really awesome though, and I love the Ghibli art style and stuff like that. So another game, Ni no Kuni 2, they mentioned will also come sometime in 2023. Now, I have played Ni no Kuni 2, which I really enjoyed that game for what it was. I get why some people don't like it. It's very much different from the first one. So that's really interesting though. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is also coming. That's available as of now. Deathloop, finally, the formerly PlayStation exclusive, is coming to Game Pass on September 20th. It's also coming to PlayStation Plus, that service, that same day, so no surprise there. They also are doing a Golden Loop update for all platforms, which that includes, let me bring that up here. Let's see. So it adds crossplay to it, so you can play with all platforms, which is kind of cool. They're adding a new ability called, Fugue? So this is a projectile that slows and confuses your target, briefly rendering them harmless and tipsy. The Fugue ability also includes 4 discoverable upgrades: Coda, which is extended duration; Earworm, which is cast a Fugue mine on a surface; Discord, target becomes hostile towards its allies; and Syncopation, on target's death, Fugue affects nearby enemies. So it's pretty cool. A new weapon, which is the Halps prototype. So the Halps prototype is a new energy-based rifle that fires a continuous laser beam, allowing you to rip through enemies with precision. That's pretty cool, actually. A new enemy, Paint Bomber. So these new NPCs are taking their creative flair to a new level, strapping themselves with a banded layer of paint-filled explosives that they're all too happy to ignite with and sprint your way. And then 4 new upgrades for Juliana's Masquerade ability. So target, which is Ensemble, target up to 3 NPCs with Masquerade. Mend, which is regenerate health. Expose, which is when an NPC is affected by Masquerade, dies, or spots cold. Cold is automatically tagged. Incognito, damage taken while using Masquerade is converted to energy. New 2-in-1 trinkets and a bunch of new secrets. So that's a pretty cool update. Coming to all platforms. I think a lot of Xbox folks are looking forward to it, I would imagine, given that it's now technically a first-party title. And I liked Deathloop. I had some issues with it in the beginning. It was kind of took me a little bit to kind of get into it and understand the flow of the game, the loop, and kind of the point. But once I kind of got it, I really did enjoy the game. And I gotta say, Arcane is probably one of my favorite studios from Bethesda, because I there's something about their games that I just am drawn to. Like, I love the Dishonored games. Genuinely, those are fantastic. And Prey was probably my least favorite of all of them, but I did enjoy it. And then Deathloop was fun. I liked that they tried something different, and you could see the clear inspiration from the previous Arcane games like Dishonored. And then, from what we've seen of Redfall, with what we saw at the summer showcase with that kind of extended look at gameplay, that game is looking more and more exciting to me. So I like Arcane games. I got to say they're definitely probably one of my favorite devs from Bethesda. So very much look forward to that on Game Pass, or if you want to buy it and actually buy a game on Xbox, you can do that. And then they also announced a slew of indie titles, including Valheim, which I think was pretty popular on PC, if I remember correctly. So that's coming to Game Pass as well. So definitely, it's clear that they're trying to bring some JRPGs, cater to the Japanese market. So we'll see how that pans out on the Xbox side. Next piece of news is a demo. I just wanted to announce this. A demo dropped for Wolong Fallen Dynasty, which is that upcoming action RPG from Team Ninja. This demo is on Xbox and PlayStation 5 until September 26th. So I think it's about a week or so, a week and a half. So you can try that out. I may try that out. It looks interesting. But there's also a demo that dropped for Valkyrie Elysium, which is the upcoming action RPG from Square Enix that dropped. And so I downloaded that. So I kind of want to try that out because I don't really know what that game's about. So I kind of wanted to see, is this like the Diofield Chronicle? I wanted to try the game out to see if I would like it. And as I mentioned in this podcast before, I really liked the Diofield Chronicle, and I want to pick it up when it launches, which I think comes out next week. Which is, holy crap. I've got games to play. But yeah, anyways. So check that out if you want to. I think I'm going to try out the Valkyrie Elysium one. And shout out to Square Enix, though, because all of their games, they've been pretty consistent at delivering a demo where your progress carries over. So that's awesome. I really like that. And the last little news item I wanted to touch on is Konami officially announced Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remasters. So these are the big Konami games, if you remember, that were revealed, and I kind of predicted this one. I said I think they're going to do a new Suikoden game. I didn't necessarily say HD remasters, but so Suikoden was right, but they're bringing 1 and 2 back, doing HD remasters. They're coming to PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch next year, and will feature graphical, mechanical, and quality of life updates. So kind of cool. Again, I've never played the Suikoden games. I know their big shtick is kind of just having 100 plus characters, lots to do in there. So I don't know. They look really interesting. Maybe I'll give one a go in the future. So there's tons of other news, but those are the ones that kind of stood out to me that I wanted to highlight here on the show. So now let's dive into the two directs, starting with the Nintendo Direct. So as you all know, Nintendo dropped a new Direct this past Tuesday. First one in quite a while. I want to say like 6 months or so. Not including the Indie Worlds and stuff like that, or the Direct Minis. So it's been a while. And this one was approximately 40 minutes long and had a ton of games announcements. I mean, just bang after bang after bang, you know. And as you probably are aware of, a pretty big one at the very end. So the way, like we always do, I kind of want to go through this. I'm not going to highlight every single game that they talked about and announced, but the ones that are interesting to me that I wanted to touch on, which actually in this case is most of them on the Nintendo side. So we'll dive through those games, share my thoughts on them, and then kind of my overall thoughts on the entire showcase. So they kicked it off with Fire Emblem Engaged, which is a new Fire Emblem game. And I think the whole shtick with this one is you get the ability to call old Fire Emblem characters, like the main character called Marth, kind of like a spirit version of Marth, and attacked enemies and stuff like that. And so it looks kind of cool, if I'm understanding that right, because I just watched the trailer. I haven't looked at any other additional press releases or anything. It's just going off what we saw in that trailer. I think it looks really cool, and I'm 100% on board with that. I think it's exciting to get a new Fire Emblem game. I think when is I didn't even write the release date down. I think it comes out sometime next year, early next year. Oh, January 20th. Okay. January 20th. Wow, that's really soon. Is when it comes out. And I really enjoyed Fire Emblem Three Houses. That was actually my first real Fire Emblem game. I had dabbled in one of the 3DS ones just a little bit, just to kind of see what it was about. It didn't really stick with me, but Fire Emblem Three Houses, I really stuck that one through, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit. However, it got a little repetitive with kind of the school parts of it, which got annoying to me towards the end. But great story, awesome characters, fun gameplay overall, and I really enjoyed it. So this one, yeah, sign me up. This one looks great. Color me intrigued. One thing I will say, though, is the main character that you play has weird looking split hair where it's half blue, half red, and then even their eyes are one's red, one blue. So really kind of interesting and unique. But other than that, beautiful art style. I love how they do kind of anime cutscenes in the game. It's just awesome. So I'm gonna keep my eye on this one. I thought that was a banger way to open up the showcase. After that, the next game I thought was interesting is Octopath Traveler 2. So we're getting a sequel to the first Octopath Traveler. And they didn't show this in the Direct or talk about it in the Direct, but this Octopath Traveler is actually coming to PlayStation. So Octopath Traveler 2 is also coming to PlayStation platforms for the first time. Makes you wonder, because the first Octopath Traveler went to, obviously, Nintendo Switch, PC, and Xbox. And it's on Game Pass right now. Never PlayStation. So it makes you wonder, are they going to bring the first game to PlayStation? It would make sense to. We'll see. I would like that, but nonetheless, we're getting a sequel. And I got to say, man, I love the 2D HD art style that they're doing with these games, because they did it with Live Alive. I think they did it with Triangle Strategy. And it's just so beautiful. So beautiful. This game comes out February 24th next year. And, I'm wondering if I would like these games, because when I was watching this trailer, I was like, this reminds me of Live Alive. And I'm wondering, not really putting it together until I've played Live Alive, but the first one was probably heavily inspired by Live Alive in the sense that you play, 8 different characters and their stories, and they're intertwined, and you're kind of, playing through this. I was like, oh, that's exactly like Live Alive. I was like, I get it now. That's that intrigues me. Now that I've played that game, I want to play this now. So I kind of want to pick the first one up, but I know it's kind of hard to get your hands on it. Because obviously I'd want a physical copy for my collection. So I'm gonna keep an eye out, see if I can get a good deal on it. But Octopath Traveler 2, man, that looks awesome, and I again, color me intrigued. I like what you're showing. Then we got some more of Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Again, I've talked about this game. Very much looking forward to it. Comes out October 20th. One thing they mentioned is that the areas that you're exploring are much bigger. So more to do. I like that. And they also mentioned that the sparks that you recruit, which are those like little star-looking things, there's 30 different ones that you can recruit, all with different powers. So, yeah, I'm sold on this game. The first one is seriously one of the best games on the Nintendo Switch. Sleeper hit. Nobody saw it coming. It shouldn't be as good as it is, but it is very, very good. Genuinely. So, high hopes for this one because it looks awesome. And then we're getting a bunch of Nintendo 64 games that are coming to their Nintendo 64 online service. So we're getting Pilot Wings 64, Mario Parties 1, 2, and 3, Pokemon Stadiums 1 and 2, 1080 Snowboarding, which I remember that game. That was fun. Excitebike 64, and then the big one, GoldenEye, with online play. And the funny thing about this is GoldenEye is also coming to Xbox on Game Pass, I think via Rare Replay, at least digital versions of that from what I was reading. But the Xbox version does not have online multiplayer. Only the Nintendo version has online multiplayer for GoldenEye, which is wild. So like the online functionality for GoldenEye is Nintendo Switch exclusive, which is weird, but also kind of funny to watch the discourse online of people like, we're getting GoldenEye on Game Pass. It's like, yeah, you're getting a game from 1997. Wow. But then you don't even get the online play, which is the only reason you would actually play that game. So have fun. Anyways, I just think it's funny when you watch that online discourse. But that's pretty cool because, I mean, if you grew up in that area like I did, GoldenEye that's the original console multiplayer game. Like that's it. GoldenEye. You know, you get four Nintendo 64 controllers. You all huddle around the TV. You're playing slaps. And you gotta watch out for the one guy who picks Odd Job because he's shorter, or you to play Golden Guns. Oh, so good, so many good memories. And then we finally got the announcement for Pikmin 4. This has been long rumored, like for many years, because I think years ago they were saying, "Oh, Pikmin 4 is like just about done." That's what the rumor was, and we never heard from it. But we finally got it. We just got a little teaser, which is weird if it's supposedly so close, or probably done, because no gameplay was shown. This is coming sometime in 2023, and it's a thing. So that's exciting for those that are Pikmin fans. I'll confess, I've never played a Pikmin game, so I don't pretend to understand them, but they look cool, I guess. So if you're excited about that, there you go. We got another Bayonetta trailer. Bayonetta 3, where it was interesting. They kind of talked about what her purpose was in the first two games and then what her purpose is in this one. Like the first game was all about kind of discovering herself. The next one was like helping a friend. And this one now it's like protecting the world. So I guess like bigger scale or something. So coming out October 28th, they also put out a new gameplay trailer on YouTube. I didn't watch it, but I'm already sold on this game. Like, Bayonetta is awesome. Like the first two games are genuinely great. So very much looking forward to Bayonetta 3. Hoping it lives up to expectations because it had a little bit of a troubled development because it was announced, gosh, like what, 2017? And we're just now getting it. So I got my fingers crossed on that one, but from what I've seen, it looks great. Then they announced this game called Rain Code, which is a detective game. And it kind of reminds me of a little bit of Persona mixed in there because they showed like this labyrinth and some of the way you can interact with characters and stuff like that. And it looked kind of neat, but I don't really know if it'd be my style of game. But I like the creativity. You're solving kind of this, obviously this mystery, and there's like some RPG mechanics in there. And so I don't know. I'm gonna kind of keep my eye on it. And as it gets closer to launch, I don't think they gave us a release date, or if they did, I didn't notate it, so my bad there. But I'm intrigued. But again, I don't know if it's going to be a game I would like. Moving down the list here, they announced a shmup, shoot 'em up, old school shmup, is Radiant Silvergun, which actually launched that day on the Nintendo eShop. So you can go check that out if you're intrigued. It looks awesome. I've always kind of wanted to jump into one of these style of games because they're just so much fun. They remind me of just good times at the arcade way back in the day. So Radiant Silvergun, that's out. And then a couple other games was announced, but then the big one at the very end was we finally got a name for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. And it's called Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And that comes out May 12th, 2023. They showed off a trailer, a little bit of gameplay where he starts in the clouds. You know, we've kind of seen it where there's landscapes and stuff in the clouds. Then he jumps down and he's kind of going down to the main area, or the main part of Hyrule on the ground. And so kind of makes you wonder, like, what's going on here? I want to know what the story is. I want to know kind of how we're going to go between like the sky world and the actual ground world. I don't know. It's Breath of the Wild was so good. Like amazingly good. Like to the point where I don't even know if I'd ever want to play it again because I liked it that much, and I don't want to like ruin that memory of that game, because when that game came out, that's like all I did. Like I was hooked to that game, and I tried to do everything in that game, and very few games grab me like that to where I quite literally cannot put it down. And I remember like weekends would roll around and like that's all I did. It's kind of bad, but this was obviously before I had my son, so I had the free time to do it. But like all day, like that's what I did, is I played Zelda, and it was so fun to explore that game. It was a wonderful story. The gameplay was really fun. Just such an amazing game, and it's crazy to think like how many units that game has sold, but also like what it did for open world games and how it kind of revolutionized the Zelda franchise. Yeah, it's just so wonderful. So the expectations for the sequel are just so high. It's like, can they deliver yet again? I don't know. But obviously it's going to sell well. Obviously I'm excited to play it. Tears of the Kingdom is really an interesting name. So it kind of almost sounds dark, like we're in some fallen times. And the way the first game wrapped up, I mean, I don't know. And I know from the other trailers, they've pointed out like Link's hand almost looks like it's infected or something. So I don't know. I'm intrigued. I want to go into this game blind. Like I don't want to read, there's people out there that do like, theories and spoilers and like, speculations and all that. And I find that stuff fascinating, but I kind of just want to go in as blind as possible because I have no idea what's going on here. It looks awesome though, and I want to play it. So yeah, we'll see. So overall though, I thought this was an awesome Nintendo Direct. I mean, just looking through this game list, I mean, there's so many bangers in here. Even like the rest of 2022, like you got Bayonetta 3, Mario and Rabbids, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. I didn't talk about that, but that's coming to Switch. I mean, there's some really good games coming out, and then they pick it right up next year with Fire Emblem, Octopath Traveler 2. They got a Kirby game coming out, which is a remake of one of Dreamland Deluxe. Obviously, Legend of Zelda is huge, so like Nintendo just keeps killing it. You got to give them credit. They just continue to deliver, and I understand why maybe some of these games don't always appeal to them, but I don't think you can deny just the sheer just number of games that Nintendo sells. I mean, I saw reports that Splatoon 3 was like the best-selling game in Japan over like other big games that you're like, what? Because I think Splatoon 3 in 3 days sold like 3.8 million or something just in Japan. That's insane. Like, that's wild. So Nintendo is just a mammoth, and they are killing it. And it's interesting to watch them do it with such a different underpowered console. Like, different strategy. It's an underpowered console, but they continue to just deliver amazing game after game after game on the Nintendo Switch. Whether it's from the first party or whether it's JRPGs or farming games. That's actually one thing I didn't put this on here, but there were a ton of like farming simulation RPG games, and there was like 3 or 4 of them. One of them actually looked really interesting, and they dropped a demo called Harvestella. And I was like, this game actually looks kind of cool. Like, I wouldn't really be into a farming game, but the RPG mechanics and this kind of story that seems to be threaded through it seems really cool. But it just kind of caught me off guard. I actually tweeted about it. I was like, I didn't realize so many people love these games, but there were 3 or 4 of them shown off at the Direct, to where it's like, oh, wow, that's, I guess this is a big thing that a lot of people like these games. So I thought that was really interesting. So I do have to call that out, but so many good games, and the way they do these Directs, I like it because it was 40 minutes, but they don't feel like 40 minutes because they're so jam-packed, and they don't waste your time. It's just, here's banger after banger after banger. And yeah, not all games are going to appeal to you. There's going to be some lulls in there where you're like, I don't really care. But generally speaking, I mean, I think there's something here for everyone. There's so many awesome games. So what a great Direct. Lots to look forward to on the Nintendo Switch. And yeah, I mean, what else can I say? Like, it's just so good. And after that was the State of Play from PlayStation later that afternoon on the same day, which is, gosh. I remember waking up to the announcement of, oh, hey, tomorrow there's a Nintendo Direct. It's like, oh, crap. That's awesome. Everyone's freaking out about that. Then later in the day, PlayStation's like, oh, by the way, we're doing State of Play. Same day. It's like, oh, okay, well, there goes my entire day. That's just bananas. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, 1-2 punch? Like, what? But anyways, we had the State of Play, and this one I think was approximately 20-ish minutes or so. Showed off a handful of games, and on this one, like we always do, I'll go through the games that I think are the most interesting, instead of every single game, though. In looking through this, I'm probably going to touch on almost every single one of them. So, let's jump into it. The first game I want to touch on is they showed off Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy Edge, which is a PSVR 2 game. And it looks like it takes place on the Galaxy Edge, like the same thing as the Disney theme park at Disneyland at Disney World, the Galaxy's Edge. Looks like it takes place there, and you're playing some sort of, I don't know, smuggler or mercenary or something, and you're kind of going about, you're interacting with different characters, you're getting in gunfights, and it looks awesome. Like, it generally looks cool. Like, again, I'm a big Star Wars fan. This just seems fun to, like, hop in VR, grab a blaster, shoot some stuff, walk around this area, kind of explore it, and have some fun. So I'm definitely intrigued about this one. I'm always kind of sketched on some of these PSVR titles, or any VR title really, because I'm prone to motion sickness. So I'm kind of curious on how I would do with some of these games. They didn't show off any like Starship gameplay, so because that's something I definitely couldn't do in VR. I know that would make me sick. But from what I saw, I was like, okay, I think I can manage that. So I'm gonna keep my eye on that one. After that, the next interesting thing, they showed off Hogwarts Legacy again. In my notes, I wrote, like, again, we're seeing this game again. Like, they keep showing this off at every waking moment with PlayStation. And it's got to be, like, in their marketing contract to where they're just like, yeah, we've we got to keep showing this game at every waking moment. But the main thing that they were showing off here was an exclusive quest to PlayStation platforms, and it is called the Haunted Hogsmeade Shop. So it was kind of creepy. There's like a creepy section shown off in this game, but it looked pretty cool. So I thought that was really neat. Again, I don't need to see more of this game though. It looks awesome. And every time I see it, it looks better and better. Like you can see they're polishing it up, getting some finishing touches, making it run smoother. So like I'm in, dude. I'm all in. Like your game looks great. I don't need to see it ever again, but we know we're going to see it like 50 more times before this game comes out. But kind of cool that PlayStation gets an exclusive quest because I think they've got the marketing rights to the game. So yeah, and actually here on GameRant.com, the way they talked about this, the quest is called the Haunted Hogsmeade Shop, and it looks like a horror game. The state of play trailer revealed that it comes with an extra dungeon, access to an in-game Hogsmeade shop, and the shopkeeper's cosmetic set. So, kind of cool, and I'm looking forward to that. And then after that, they showed off a game called Pacific Drive. And this is like a weird first-person driving game. I don't really know how to describe it, because the trailer they showed off, you're driving this like station wagon. It's kind of creepy. It's dark, and then all of a sudden, like this weird, like almost alien storm starts happening, and you never see your character because it's all kind of in first person. And the character gets in the car and he just starts driving, and they're driving like a maniac, trying to bob and weave through this storm, and that's like the premise of this game. And it's got a really cool art style. I really like the art style they chose. And actually, I was trying to look it up. According to Kotaku.com, they said that they call the game a road-like, which is basically, I guess they say think Stalker, but with a car. So, yeah. They say driving around some kind of weird alien anomaly-filled landscape. It's described by its creators as a run-based first-person driving survival game, which means you'll basically be spending a lot of time driving frantically for your life, as they showed off in the trailer. So, really, kind of interesting, really unique game. Never seen anything quite like it. It's slated to come out in 2023, and I thought it was really neat. Again, I've never seen anything quite like it, so I'll be curious to see what people think of the game when it launches, or when it's closer to launch, and if it's even worth trying out. Because I don't know, but based on that premise, I don't know if I'd like it. But from what I saw in the trailer, I was like, I'm kind of intrigued. So check it out if you didn't watch the state of play, because it looks really interesting. Then they talked about the PlayStation Stars loyalty program, which was kind of weird because it was literally in the middle of the state of play. And then like their VP of marketing comes on screen to talk about their PlayStation Stars program. And it just felt so out of place, but it is what it is. So the rewards program is basically you do various things on the platform to gain digital collectibles, or I think points that can be redeemed for digital collectibles. And so the digital collectibles include, video game characters or digital devices from Sony's history. So they showed off kind of like this old school Sony speaker, a PS3, etc. And so that's the whole point of this. They said it's rolling out in Asia, the Asias first in I think later September, and then Americas and other regions a few weeks after that. So kind of interesting. Kind of reminds me of what Game Pass does with those like Game Pass quests. So you do various Game Pass activities, you get points. Those points I think can be redeemed for, quite honestly, I don't know, but I'm assuming some sort of digital stuff. And I have a bunch of those points, but I've never done anything with them. But either way, it kind of reminded me of that. So I think it's something just to kind of be, to parody that. I don't really know really much to expect of it. Like, I don't really care about, digital collectibles or anything like that. So I don't know, but interesting nonetheless. Figured I'd call it out, talk about it. Then they show this game called Sin Duality. And the way I describe this game is it looks like a mech game where you fight aliens and collect resources. And let's see, I'm going to see what the description of the game is because my notes did not do it justice. So in Synduality, you team up with an AI partner, Magnus, to reclaim lost ground for humanity. The remains of a ruined world where poisonous rain and dangerous creatures run amok. Drifters, like the player character, are humans that brave it all in the name of collecting rare resources called AO crystals. And so you actually play a mech, though. So you play a mech, you can customize the mech and customize your appearance, weapons over the course of the game. Synduality also has a PvPvE online mode where players are challenged to clear missions and can potentially thwart one another's progress. So it looks kind of interesting. I don't really like the resource or survival type games. This kind of seems to, be on the edge of that. So where you're collecting resources, mining and all that stuff. But you're also fighting aliens, potentially other players. And I like that aspect, and it looks kind of fun. So I don't know. I don't really think it's a game that for me, but it's one I kind of want to see more of, just to see okay, I don't really know if I like the premise, but maybe there's something here for me if I were to see more or learn more about the game. So this is coming out in 2023. I also think it has co-op because there was one shot in the trailer where they showed two mechs, and I have to imagine, there's other mechs. Maybe you can partner up with some folks, or maybe they were playing against each other. I don't know because they mentioned PvP in this IGN article. So we shall see. But I thought it looked really interesting, nonetheless. So after that, they showed a game called Stellar Blade, and this was apparently a game formerly known as Project Eve, which I guess we saw this back in the PlayStation Showcase in September of last year. But now we have its official name, Stellar Blade. It's a PS5 console exclusive coming in 2023. In kind of watching the trailer, I got Nier vibes with the music, the action RPG, almost action RPG mechanics. Totally got Nier vibes from this. But let's see, the way PlayStation Blog describes this game is Eve. You play as Eve, who's the main character. Eve and her comrades land on the surface to reclaim the extinct Earth and cross paths with a survivor named Adam. Eve is then led by Adam to the last surviving city, Zion, where she meets the elder of the town, Oracle, and is told many stories. In order to serve her mission and to save Earth, Eve develops close relationships with the key members of Zion and contributes to rebuilding the city. On a mission to save the Earth from the native, N-A-Tiv, kind of weird spelling there, Eve is also faced with helping out the citizens of Zion. Whether you help the survivors or not depends purely on your decision as the player. And they talk about action-packed battles against fierce bosses, which they do. They do look pretty cool. And let's see. Yeah, it just looks like a crazy action RPG. Very the main character is very that kind of sexified lady. There's some nice booty shots if you're interested in that. But it looks cool. I gotta say, it does look kind of cool. And again, I got Nier vibes, which I really enjoyed Nier Automata. So I'm interested in this one. I gotta say, it looks like it could be kind of fun. And I kind of want to see more of it. Beautiful looking game, I gotta say, by the way. Beautiful graphics. So yeah, I'm going to be keeping my eye on this one. So it comes out sometime next year and an exclusive to PS5. So that's pretty cool. And then after that, they showed this game called Rise of the Ronin, which is also a PS5 exclusive. This is coming in 2024, so a ways away. And this is pretty sure it's done by Team Ninja. Let me look that up here. Yeah, so Team Ninja, it's their game, and it's an action RPG, open world, and clearly it looks influenced from Ghost of Tsushima, but with little different combat, some different mechanics, and it looks interesting. I think they're putting a lot of faith in this game because I think Team Ninja is really trying to break out with a big AAA hit here. So I don't know. It looks interesting. Let me see what the PlayStation blog says. New action RPG from Team Ninja. So let's see. Latest action RPG game which takes you on an epic and unfettered journey as a Ronin at the dawn of a new era in Japan. It was 7 years ago when we first began this project, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Yeah, because one of the things they showed off in the trailer is that even though you're a Ronin and you kind of get, old school Ghost of Tsushima vibes, there's still like more modern like cities or more industrialized cities that you can kind of go into explore. And I'm sorry if you can hear the noise in the background. I got the window cracked a little bit, and then there's cars driving and stuff like that. So my apologies. But let's see. Rise of the Ronin is a combat-focused, open-world action RPG that takes place in Japan at a time of great change. It is at the very end of a 300-year-long Edo period, commonly known as the Bakumatsu. Set in the late 19th century, Japan is facing its darkest times as it struggles with its oppressive rulers and deadly diseases, while Western influence permeates as civil war continues to rage between the Tokugawa shogunate and the anti-shogunate factions. So, kind of interesting time, this conflict between kind of old school and more modern civilizations. I like the premise here. Here in this time of mayhem, you embody a Ronin character, a warrior bound to no master, and free to make choices of its own. Rise of the Ronin is a new Team Ninja experience that will immerse you in a historically inspired world while bringing together its renowned combat action with katanas and the likes, with new firearm weaponry that depicts the unique personality of its time period. So think swords and guns. I like that. So I don't know, man. This seems really interesting. Yeah, I think there's even one point where he like takes down a guy with his sword and then busts out a revolver. Kind of cool. I don't know. It seems cool. I'm not the biggest Team Ninja fan. Like I have both the Neo games, and I've always wanted to play them. I remember playing the beta for the first one. So they definitely have a interesting style. This game seems really, really different from what they typically do, but I'm intrigued. Again, I can't get over the Ghost of Tsushima vibes. I mean, it's kind of hard to not make that comparison, especially with this being a PS5 console exclusive. But we'll see. We got a ways to go before this game comes out. Again, it's slated to come out in 2024. Give it some time, but I liked what I saw here, though I'm not 100% sold on it. So I want to see some actual like gameplay, like a 10-minute demo or something to see, okay, what's the moment-to-moment gameplay look like in this game? Then I think I'd be able to make a better informed decision. But I'm sure we'll get that in the, next year at some point. And then as they wrapped the show up, they showed off God of War Ragnarok. So first off, they showed off a God of War DualSense controller, which the DualSense controller doesn't do anything for me. It's not a crazy cool design that I like, but I like that they're doing this because that's one of the things I wish PlayStation would do more of is, game tie-ins with their controllers and consoles and different color schemes and stuff like that. Like I love when they do this stuff because this is something that I think both Nintendo and especially Xbox do way better. Like Xbox, they had the Forza Horizon 5 controller that they put out was awesome looking. Like I actually almost got it just because like this is cool. Had like the yellow and then the pink graffiti and a really unique looking controller. Awesome design. They also have the color lab. Like Xbox just does it right in terms of having a variety of controllers and color schemes and stuff like that. And Nintendo, obviously, they could do better, but they have some cool ones too. Like they just had the Splatoon 3 Nintendo Switch, which I really wanted, but I cannot justify buying another Nintendo Switch. And then, they do game tie-ins and stuff like that too. So I like that PlayStation's doing this, though the controller to me is not that exciting. But then they also showed off God of War Ragnarok, a new trailer. Kind of gave you a glimpse into the story a little bit. Like when I was watching this trailer, you kind of get the sense that like Kratos' past, because they keep kind of referring to it, is kind of catching up to him. And something just kind of seems off. Like between the dynamic with Kratos and Atreus, and I don't know. I'm very, very excited for this. Like, this game just looks awesome. Like, the first one was so good, and the story was just so heartfelt. You love the dynamic. The gameplay was so fun. And I get some people's complaints with it, but I genuinely thought it was great. And so, I was kind of blah on this game. Like, I'm excited for it. Obviously, I think it's going to be great. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm super over the moon for this game. I cannot wait to play it. But after seeing this trailer and kind of getting a glimpse at kind of what the story might be about, and just again, kind of being reminded like how good this game looks, I was like, okay, this is getting me more excited for it for sure. So one of the other things they showed off in the trailer too was a ton of diverse environments. From different landscapes to kind of almost like different dimensions, and some really crazy enemies and enemy designs. I don't know. This game has a lot to live up to, like Breath of the Wild, because I think a lot of people were skeptical with the God of War reboot in 2018, and then everyone plays it and it's like, oh, okay, this is amazing. So that like Horizon, like Breath of the Wild, like the expectation's already there and it's set very high. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of live up to those expectations or even exceed them with the sequel. But from what I'm seeing, so far it looks like they're doing a good job. Again, this game comes out November 9th of this year. I'll be definitely playing that day one. Very much looking forward to that. So that was it. There's a couple other games in here that they announced that I didn't really talk about, like Tekken 8, Like a Dragon Ishin, stuff like that. So all in all, though, I think that's a pretty good state of play. I don't like when they show off these games that don't really have like a set time. Like Rise of the Ronin, like this coming out in 2024. Like, really, do you need to show that now? But I think the focus here was on more Japanese focused games, or at least that's what they like from their Japanese partners, I should say. So some cool stuff nonetheless, and some stuff to be excited about. I wouldn't say it was their best state of play, but definitely a solid state of play. But for sure, kind of a little bit of everything sprinkled in there, from PSVR to some fighting games to some smaller games, and then obviously some of the bigger Japanese not traditional, AAA games, and then you close it out with your banger God of War. The one thing I will say that's interesting about this, because again, in terms of first party games, after God of War, we don't really know what else is coming out. I mean, obviously we know Spider-Man 2 is in the works from Insomniac. Same with Wolverine, that's in the works. I don't think we're going to see Wolverine for a bit. I would imagine Spider-Man 2 is going to come out first before Wolverine. And then we also know about we also know about Factions from Naughty Dog. That's definitely going to be a live service game. So outside of that, though, we don't really know what the other first party teams are up to. Presumably, like Sucker Punch is working on Ghost of Tsushima 2, but it'll be a while before we see that, most likely. Team Asobi over there I would presume that they're working on like a full-fledged Astrobot game. I would imagine Housemarque's working on, whatever their new title is, but again, it's going to be a while before we see anything from this. So I'm genuinely curious on what's next. So it's kind of exciting, maybe even a little worrisome to a degree. Like, we don't know, like they're not talking about this stuff, but I really don't think they have to, because I think they're doing just fine without it. But that's kind of interesting not to know what's kind of on the horizon next year after God of War Ragnarok. So we shall say, well, obviously we know we're going to get some strong support from second and third party partners in terms of exclusives like Final Fantasy 16. That's going to be a banger. But just interesting. So I would imagine we're going to maybe we get another state of play closer to the end of the year, or maybe even at the Game Awards, there's some big announcements from Sony's first party, though I don't think they typically have a strong presence at the Game Awards. We shall see. But that was the state of play. Kind of exciting stuff nonetheless. Yeah, that's all I got for you guys on this kind of lengthy episode to cover both the Nintendo Direct and State of Play. Lots of games, lots of announcements. What a crazy week it has been in the video game space. But let me know what you guys think about all of that, the State of Play, the Nintendo Direct. What was your favorite game? That's the question of the week. What was your favorite game shown off at either one of these showcases? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on YouTube. You can watch the YouTube version there, youtube.com/Gamecite. Be sure to subscribe. And as always, it's very much appreciated if you could leave us a nice rating on the podcast platform you are listening on. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Gamecite Podcast. You can also write me there. We can get you into the show. Very much appreciate any interaction. If you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, and ideas, just hit me up. Let me know. Love to hear from you. That feedback loop is always essential. You gotta have that. And stay safe out there. Hope you're doing well as we transition into fall. Starting to get beautiful, cool down a little bit. Maybe give you some more time to be inside and play some video games. Not a bad thing, if you ask me. And that'll do it. So, hope you guys do well. I'll talk to you guys next week. Until next time, I'm Bonfire, and I will see you online.